Welcome to another episode of Treasure Corals. In today's video I just want to show you all the mess I got myself into and give you a quick update on my farm. So as you can see, the water is a little bit murky over here. And why? Well, because see those two tanks behind? They are being shut down. So it's a pretty interesting situation. For those of you who have been following my channel for the past few years, know that I started out by building this farm tank in the middle. This is a 6 feet by 3 feet tank, which is kind of awesome, and I like it. And then as COVID progressed, I was slowly expanding it. So I've built into this system another tank over here. So this is the Seapora 4 foot by 2 feet tank, which was awesome. And then I filled it up with coral, and I figured I wanted one more tank, so I went with this tank over here, which is a very old 30 Nouveau innovative marine tank that I've had forever. Had some issues, but eventually I plumbed it in, and everything has nice little bean animal or dorso overflow, which is awesome. Like, I really like that part. And they, over the years, and again, if you go back in history, you're going to see I've had all different combinations of tanks here. So the big one for a while was SPS, and then this was my LPS, and this was kind of a design tank, or just something that I would use for corals that I would be posting online. Then there was a period when this tank here was my kind of a photography studio tank, and then later on this became my SPS tank, and I was just kind of going back and forth with all of those aquariums. Later on I did plumb in my 4-footer water box into this tank as well, and eventually just gotten a little bit too much, especially now that I've gotten the big 7-footer tank, which is my display tank. So I've shut everything else down, shut it off, and for a while I just had this farm over here. So this is what I've been running. But then I figured, so what what happened was about, I want to say, a couple of months ago, I figured, okay, I need to take some photos of the coral for my website, so the treasurecorals.com. So I figured, okay, fine, I'll maybe reuse the tank behind here. It'll be my photography studio, and I've actually geeked out and I've made it super awesome. I had special lighting set up at different angles, and it was a lot of fun. But guess what happened? Very quickly I figured, well, now I have this body of water, why don't I add a few more corals, and then a few more, and then very quickly this whole tank is now filled with coral. And I'm running it, and I'm enjoying it, and now I have 3 tanks. Okay, fine, what do I do next? Eventually I got a copper band, and the copper band doesn't like to eat out of the water column, so I figured, I have this tank over here, maybe I'll fill it up, and then I'm gonna put my copper band in there. And guess what? Very quickly there were some corals that also went into this aquarium. And at some point there was a day of reckoning, or a night of reckoning, when I was just kind of thinking about all of this, and I realized that at some point you gotta draw the line and stop. So thought a little bit about it, and then just maybe an hour or two ago I bit the bullet. I decided I'm going to drain it, and I moved all of the coral into this tank over here, and I drained the other 2 tanks. So the other 2 tanks are not running, and it's a bit of a temptation, but I gotta focus on many other things, and I think there's just too many tanks. And I think, again, many of you can relate, but, well, I guess that's what happened. So now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's the right decision. It's not easy to just stop with this hobby. of expanding. But in this case, I think this is the right thing to do. And what one of the reasons I was expanding things was because all these different coral that I keep. I have torches, I have tons of acropora, I have montes, I have everything, the LPS, and all of them require different conditions in terms of lighting and the flow. And it's a challenge to set up different lighting and flow in one tank, even such a big tank as this one. But I think I do enjoy a challenge, and I think over time I plan to really optimize the heck out of this aquarium and make it work for a mixed reef. It's not easy. You have the acropora that are loving high flow, and you want to be blasting them with light and flow. And then you have torches, which do like their light, but you don't want to be blasting them with too much flow, but they like a fair bit of flow. And you have coral like this Nephthya over here, which doesn't like too much flow. Or I have the what else? Whole bunch of other ones. So it's a challenge, but I think I will prevail. And I'm dealing with a few issues over here, just lining everything up, like making sure that everybody is happy, that the corals are not touching, that the torches, which have very long tentacles, they're not hitting adjacent corals, other corals. So it's a bit of an interesting challenge, but I think I will be able to do it. And as a matter of fact, one other thing I thought about was that too much water volume. On one hand, there's this notion in the hobby that if you've got tons of water, because again, what I could have done is I could have just kept these two tanks in line, but just turn off the light and maybe close off so that there's no evaporation, and then you have tons of body of water. But I guess the detriment of that is that when I'm doing water changes, I'm actually doing a lesser water change percentage-wise, even though I'm changing the same amount of water. I also find that, if anything, it's easier to sometimes maintain the stability by doing larger water changes when they are a larger percentage of water here as well. So this is kind of where my mind goes to right now. And I guess another thing is just making sure that everything is nice and clean. If it's 3 tanks, it's a lot harder to make sure that all the glass is clean, that corals are not touching. Here right now, honestly, this is a mess, the way I see it. But hopefully over the next few days or weeks, I will really meticulously just go through every coral, figure out the things I want to keep, remove things that I don't, and just have fun with the farm. Come back to what I enjoy the most, and that is coral husbandry, figuring out what it takes to keep this coral to make them tick, and that is the idea. So with that said, let me know what you think of my trials and tribulations. Do you think this is a good idea, a bad idea? I mean, nothing is set in stone. I can always easily turn the water back on and kind of come back, but that is what I'm doing on a Friday night. Until next time.